Hello, hello. Great. Perfect. So, so I'll be quite brief with introducing who I am. I'm Tade. I handle the global consumer marketing and market research for Promote Iceland for the tourism field. And the story starts again in 2010. And I think it's really important to understand why we are working like we work today is to go to the beginning. So in 2010, like I was saying earlier, we had Eyjafjallajökull. That is the name of the volcano that erupted. Yeah, sure. Do you know what it means? So it means island, mountain, glacier. It just means that. So why don't we just say that? That's easier. But this was the image in 2010 in the global media. This was Iceland. You could see ash everywhere. You know, dead sheep and cows everywhere. People wearing gas masks. This was the image in 2010. I wouldn't want to go with my family for a summer destination like Iceland if I saw this. So we had a crisis. And what can you do when you're dealing with this perception, you know, that it's dangerous to come? How can you use marketing to educate people about the way things are? And this was the situation in Iceland. We weren't that affected by this volcano. Eyjafjallajökull is located here. This is the ash, and it's actually going away from Iceland to you guys. I'm sorry, but we weren't that affected. Reykjavik is here, the capital, and all of this area wasn't that affected by the volcano. So it was quite safe to come to Iceland. But we were seeing bookings being dropped. People just saying, I'm canceling my trip, I'm not going to this destination. So we had a crisis, and this is the time we started the Inspired by Iceland campaign. So it's a crisis management campaign at first. But for the first time, we had everybody coming together and discussing how are we going to promote this destination. Every stakeholder, Icelanders, industries, tourism officials, government. And at the same time, Promote Iceland also was being established. So these were the objectives. We wanted to reverse the decline in tourism numbers. We wanted to tackle the rumors head on and affect people's perceptions that it is safe to come. But how are you going to do it? So we couldn't do the normal thing, what the destination does, do glossy ads, you know, in magazines saying, everything's safe, you can come to Iceland. Nobody would believe it. How can you do it so people will believe? You will have to fuel people, real people, to tell stories about the destination saying, hey, everything is all right to come to Iceland. So what we had to do is inspire people to tell positive stories about Iceland. And this was the key data that we had. And when we looked into the data, almost every visitor that came to Iceland would recommend it highly to a friend. So, what did we do? We asked famous people that we knew that loved the country to go on camera and talk about the destination. We had Eric Clapton, Yoko Ono, we had Jamie Oliver and other people to talk about Iceland and how it meant to them. We got loads of stories from people all around Iceland to share stories, how it was that day, just to keep it authentic and real. We placed web cameras all over the country, so you could go and see in live that everything's okay, everything is beautiful, you can come to Iceland. And we even take it a step further. It's okay. Welcome. We took it a step further, and we did print ads in, for example, if you're walking in London, going to catch the train, you could see posters of Iceland that day with the temperature and how it looked. So people understood it's okay. But the campaign actually started with a world's first, something that had never been done in marketing. So the Prime Minister came on TV, talked to the nation and said, everybody gets 1 hour from work. free from work, 1 hour, go to your computers, go to social media, and share stories about Iceland. And 1/3 of the nation did. They went on, and remember, this is 2010. So Facebook is 2 years old at the time. So it's quite new. It's storytelling today is nothing new, I guess, in marketing, but it was groundbreaking at the time for the initiative. So it's a people-powered campaign. That's how the campaign started. And here's a video that kind of goes into the short story of that. Let me see if I can.
There are warnings the debris could cause significant disruption to international services.
And thousands of travellers are camping out at airports. Biggest airspace shutdown since the Second World War.
People of Iceland have always been proud and honored to share our country with others.
I've been enjoying mostly just driving, walking in all kinds of weather in Iceland, and I feel a really strong connection to it.
Make your voice break, sing it out. Go scream to shout, make an earthquake. Evil is fire, will die and turn colder. Evil is younger, will see you grow older. We should always know that we can do anything. Go drown to proud, make your hand shake, play it out.
So we thought we would have the worst summer ever in tourism, but actually it ended up being the best one. So what we learned from the campaign, and we have always tried to uphold, is being people-powered and using our stakeholders as the storytellers. And it's really important when you are promoting a destination that people live in, that the locals identify with what you're saying, that you're authentic, and you're going into the right way, and you're doing it together. That's really important. And as I mentioned earlier in the other presentation, we do integrated marketing. So we use the basic channels. And we have really strong channels to get the message out, but we always use the same message regardless of medium or markets. So we wanted to continue from 2010, but we had totally different objectives. We were not just thinking about decline in tourism numbers or crisis. We want to think about how are we going to do this? How are we going to do growth and the right growth? So the objective was increasing awareness of Iceland as a year-round destination, increased commerce from tourists, decrease seasonality in every region for Icelandic tourism, inspire responsible travel behavior, and maintain positive visitor experience, and maintain positive attitude towards tourism in Iceland, so local attitude. And we are a small destination. We are, and we are competing with really big destinations in the world. And we don't have a lot of money to do it. We don't have huge budget compared to Norway or other destinations. It's just, we don't have that much. So we are basically forced as well to do and say things differently. We have to do campaigns that people talk about. You know, conventional tourism campaigns, they push information to people and say, this is the best destination, come to this destination. What we have to do is to engage with them with a conversation. We have to do campaigns that people will at least talk about or engage with. And we do campaigns every year, and here you can see all of the campaigns, and I only have a certain amount of time, so I can't talk about every campaign, but I'm going to select maybe 3 to discuss and show you kind of the behind the scenes, how we do those campaigns and the creative work. As I mentioned, we have a really active dialogue. We do really a lot of meetings with the stakeholders, asking them if we are on the right course, if they have anything to suggest, and so on. But this is the initial thing that we do when we do campaigns with stakeholders. So for the Inspired by Iceland campaign, we do a strategy meeting in first, and we invite about over 100 tourism companies to come, government officials, locals as well, and we talk about what is the most pressing issue for Icelandic tourism. Is it growth? Is it seasonality? Is it responsible behavior from tourists? And for every year we have this dialogue, and when we find the main kind of common thread. What is the main thing we want to focus on for that year? And is it in line with our guiding light and our objectives? From that meeting, we brainstorm with our creative partners and come up with a creative idea. So we don't just go out then and promote. We again meet all those partners again, and we have a marketing meeting. And we ask them, do you like this creative idea? Is this something you can connect to as well when we go and launch the campaign? If we get yes, the go ahead, we will continue. And we will do strategies and targets for the campaign. We will select the markets and all of that. Again, we meet up with them and say, this is our plans, this is the creative idea. Are you ready for us when we go? So you can follow through. Because this is the main thing. Inspired by Iceland doesn't sell anything. We don't sell. We try to inspire. We try to stimulate demand. That's what we do. We try to do engagement, interest, but the companies have to be ready to follow and do the sell. So we try always just to inspire. No, not really, no. We haven't. We've been that lucky because you have the initial discussion. This comes from them. They have now the ownership. They say this is the most important thing to do. They've always been pleased with the creative idea, and they come with the suggestions. There's never been like a flat no, but they have had, well, does this work for this region or this season and so on, and for my company, does it work? And we try to then figure out a way to meet in the middle. But we've always been able to go through the process. So when everybody's on board, we do informations about the campaign, a special playbook that we give our partners, and then we go live. So everybody is going with us. This is really important. If we would just do it alone, if we didn't have the discussion and we went abroad and said, this is our campaign, they have no shared ownership with the stakeholders. They're not interested in the campaign. So it's really important to share ownership of the idea, and everybody creates it together. It takes a lot of work, it takes a time, but this is like 2 or 3 months process to do. Yeah, they are really often involved. For example, the first one, that was the president inviting the world to share stories. The Team Iceland campaign was the president inviting the world to support Iceland in the World Cup. We have had ministers and other stakeholders to front the campaign as well. And be, real people. That's also something we try to use. So I'm going to talk about campaigns. So this is how we do the campaigns. But how do we do? So in 2015, we had the Ask Gudmundur idea, which I presented earlier. And what was the main challenge? So we had the discussion. We were seeing growth, huge growth for Iceland during the winter months, which was great. But when we looked at the regions, are they actually traveling further or just going to the same sites that everybody was going? That is a challenge, and it's not sustainable if everybody's going just to the south and Reykjavik. How can we inspire travelers to go all around Iceland? So what we're seeing actually is a decline in growth for the regions outside of the typical ones. These are amazing regions, a lot to do, though I say so myself. But we're actually seeing decline in some of the regions as well in 2014. So that was the pressing issue. How can we engage with our target group and inspire them to go further? What is the first thing you do when you go to a destination? As I was saying, you Google it. And this is a problem because when you Google Iceland, you only get the main tourism sites. You never hear about the other regions, all of the other secrets, the Westfjords. The Westfjords are amazing. Nobody knows about it. So how can we use marketing in a sense, in a creative way, and spark interest? This is why we did Ask Gudmundur. So 7 Gudmundurs for the 7 regions. And their name is really Gudmundur. And our main challenge there is we have about 2,000 Gudmundurs, male Gudmundurs in Iceland, but we only have 200 female Gudmundurs. And we had to find them using Facebook. And do you want to participate in this campaign? And they have to live in the region. And there was only one Gudmunda in the south. And she was actually in the national soccer team for females. And she was able to participate. But when you look at also the people, it is representing not just one kind of people. It's different in ages and interests and where they live, and they have these amazing stories to tell you, and they want to interact with you. So we had the human search engine Gudmundur. And how it works is you go on social media and you ask Gudmundur a question. It can be everything you want to know about the region or just anything at all. Be in Gudmundur. So when you Google, you will get billion search results in like 1 second or something like that. When you ask Gudmundur, he might answer you tomorrow. And he's human. And we are all deeply flawed in that way. We're not a computer. But when he comes back with an answer, it's personal. And you feel special. And it's something you can share. And everybody can take part in the conversation. So it doesn't matter if he brought the right answer to you. At least he's beginning a dialogue with you. For example, Marie-Eve, she asked, I think she's from Spain, where do I meet the Icelander of my life? So Gudmundur of the Westfjords, he gave her the answer.
Hello, Mary Eve. I'm Gudmundur of the Westfjords, and thank you for your question. You might meet the Icelander of your life in a nature pool like this. Maybe you have some red wine in glass. Red roses too. Having silver gray hair. Sexy deep voice. Maybe he is a humble harbor master in a little town, who knows. So come to the Westfjords and you might meet the Icelander of your life. Adios.
So it's a simple question that, it isn't even about a region, but still you see pictures from the region and you feel more interest maybe to know in something a bit more. And this is the thing, we're not selling you anything, it's just a conversation. That's the first thing we try to do. So going kind of technical here, this is the digital ecosystem of the campaign. So we think of it as 3 kind of phases. So we bring out hero content, is what we call it, promotional videos explaining the campaign and inviting everybody to ask questions. For example, that was the video that I showed earlier in the other presentation. Then hopefully we get engagement where people ask questions, and then we would answer them directly on social media, or we would do a video. And we actually traveled around Iceland for that period, did over 100 videos on kind of just in the car, editing and answering. And then hopefully if we do good content, people will share it, take part in the conversation. And here's a short case study of the campaign. If I do this.
Iceland invites you to send your questions to #AskGuðmundur. I gather that Iceland has a lot of folks named Guðmundur, and they'll answer. Guðmundur?
I'm Guðmundur. In here it's 40 degrees.
The place where they shot the Game of Thrones, the intimate moment between Jon Snow and Ygritte.
Guðmundur and Guðmunda are Icelandic first names.
Welcome to Fortitude.
And Timo, good luck with your paper.
Himminkvöld sólar skar.
Hi, I'm Guðmundur.
And we are Guðmundur!
No, I don't use Google for my research. If I don't know it, then I call my brother Jói. And if Jói doesn't know it, I call my wife Anna. And if Anna doesn't know it, then I call my friend Jonni. And if Jonni doesn't know it, then nobody knows.
What I think is good with this campaign and why people connected to it is we have this digital world and nobody connects anymore with kind of people. So kind of using local, authentic people is something that resonates as well, being authentic. We saw really good results for the campaign. It's won many awards, and the videos got over 7 million views. Every sentiment, so when people are talking and discussing about the campaign in media or on the social media, basically 100% were positive. There were 1.6% that were neutral. There was nobody negative. So that's good. We did studies that we compared those who didn't see the material with those who did see the material. And we saw actually a 38.6% uplift in consideration to come to Iceland after seeing it. And this is the funny thing. We're asking people not to Google Iceland. We're asking them to use Guðmundur. But after seeing Guðmundur, we see 164% up in searches terms of Iceland. So they Googled Iceland after seeing the material. And the funny thing is, Google loved this campaign so much that they did a case study of the campaign, because of course we did this in collaboration with Google. We were using YouTube a lot in the marketing, and they made a case study how to effectively use YouTube as in marketing. Looking at, and these numbers of course is a part of a dialogue with the stakeholders. It's not just the campaign, but at least we're seeing a boost in numbers in the regions again. So we're seeing back the growth in every region, not just one, but every region. We're seeing growth in visitor numbers. So it was a successful campaign, at least we thought. Any questions before I go to the next one? Maybe we'll do, yeah? Yeah, sure. That's no problem. I've tried them a lot. They're really good. Okay, so the next campaign I want to talk about is what we did the year after Guðmundur. We're seeing growth, but we're seeing the need for more educational marketing. to tourists about what it is to be a considerate tourist when traveling in Iceland. And that's the time we introduced the Iceland Academy. So what are the objectives with this campaign? Grow quality tourism and culture, educate tourists to behave responsibly in Iceland, and increase consideration of Iceland. These are the objectives. Okay, so holidays are supposed to be fun. Nobody wants to take a class. You know, that's the challenge. How are we going to ask people to behave responsibly and learn about to be a responsible tourist? And that's the thing. That's our main, when we were discussing this was the main thing we discussed, is the best lessons aren't lessons. We have to behave like our favorite teachers. You know, the ones that when you are in a classroom, you didn't feel like you were in a classroom, you were actually interested in the subject. So we have to make it fun. This is, as I was saying earlier, this is the typical kind of tourism marketing approach when doing a campaign. You do ads to promote the country, and you do it with paid media and you push it. So our model was we have to entertain them, make it fun, to teach tourists to behave more responsible, but not just to behave more responsible, but so they can get more out of the travel in Iceland. And we're going to use social media and owned media and PR to public relations to get that across. So it's a special team of Icelandic tourists called Iceland Academy to enlighten tourists on how they can experience the best food, nature, culture, adventure, relaxation and well-being that Iceland has to offer in a safe and a responsible way. Using again authentic locals that have an expertise in the subject and can really give you that expert advice. No, none of them are actors. This one, she is in the culinary team of Iceland, and she's gonna talk about Icelandic food and teach you about that. We have Baldur, who is a photographer, professional, and he will teach you how to capture the Northern Lights. We have Stina, who is also a certified guide, and will talk to you about the nature and how to behave in a responsible way. So every participant is a local that knows their expertise and will give you an authentic class. So that was the thing we wanted to teach, but also what we asked people to do is, what's the class? And then take a short exam that is fun, and you will get a badge if you have finished it. And you can share that as well on social media. We were quite afraid when we started this campaign to be, you know, true. We didn't know how people were gonna perceive this. Like, you know, would they act like, who are you to tell me how to behave and stuff like that? What we actually learned is our target group, or those who are coming to Iceland, tourists, they want the destination to behave in this way when marketing, to think about sustainability and responsibility. So actually what we saw in the numbers is they actually liked it much more, seeing this kind of marketing. And this is just a tool for the tourists to, you know, it's a handy tool, information. So these are the classes that we did. Let me see what video we have here. This is a case study of it. It's really dramatic.
Hi, I'm Stina. Welcome to Iceland Academy. Iceland truly is an amazing country, and at the Academy we're here to help you get the most out of it. Our first class tours will guide you every step of the way. I know you want to look hot in a selfie, but some hot springs and geysers can be over 100 degrees Celsius. There are a number of things you shouldn't do to Icelandic nature. And strictly no high heels, unless you go into one of our fancy restaurants.
Remember the little rhyme? Heads, armpits, crotch and toes, crotch and toes.
We can't wait to have you at the Iceland Academy.
Right. So the next campaign I want to talk about is the A2 of Iceland. So again, I mentioned this in the earlier presentation about how we're using the Icelandic alphabet and the Icelandic language to teach tourists about Iceland. You can learn about every region and going through the alphabets like an A to C guide. And you can get badges and you can take quizzes as well. But this was also the challenge. How do we get them interested in this when, you know, the audience we're trying to reach is so over-targeted? It's the most over-targeted audience in the world. Everybody's trying to get that target group. So we have to do it again, like we learned with the Iceland Academy, that it has to be fun, not boring, entertainment-led. This is when we had the idea of the hardest karaoke song in the world, using the Icelandic language because it's so difficult to learn and pronounce, and offer people to learn about Iceland in a fun way. So here is the hardest karaoke song in the world. Feel free to join in. It will stay in your mind forever because it's so catchy. But does anybody want the mic?
This is the A2 of Iceland, so try to sing along. This is the A2 of Iceland, what could possibly go wrong? I start my day with coffee, or coffee's what we say. I pour a little milk in and feed my horse some hay. I look out the window to see if there is soul. I eat my morgun matur and sit down in my stól. This A is kind of awesome, no matter what you see. There's hver list and jöklar and vinir you can meet. Skål! So pack your töskur, Iceland has it all. Austur to vestur, just don't look for ends. Don't even exist. This is the A2 of Iceland, so try to sing along. This is the A2 of Iceland, what could possibly go wrong? Our sundlegar are cozy, afklæðast all the way. But don't forget sundskýla before you go and play. Okay. You might see a torfbær or hike in the þjóðgarð, and you must say hi to Willi, because that is my dad? Pappi. And you can rent a bílaleigubíl. Enjoy the drive on hringvegurinn. Be mindful of malarvegir. And don't track on the moss, it grows back so slow. Like 70 years. This is the A2 of Iceland, so try to sing along. This is the A2 of Iceland, what could possibly go wrong? Since the rip of Alda, the sheep has been around. Vinaleg and gracious, every man's best friend. We cuddle them and klappa and then take all their ull. We wear them like the kappa and they've always kept us full. This is the A2 of Iceland, so try to sing along. This is the A to of Iceland. What could possibly go wrong? This is the A to of Ísland. So reynda að syngja með. This is the A to of Ísland. Now memorize this lag.
You just sang the hardest karaoke song in the world. You speak Icelandic. You can even say plokkfiskur. You're almost an Icelander. Or almost. Seriously. It's a lot of paperwork. Just come and visit.
So that's the karaoke song. It's fun, but at the same time you learned about regions even, or that you shouldn't step on the moss because it grows really slow. So trying to get a point across that's usually really boring to get across, but in a fun way. So we used our integrated approach, using PR, using press releases, social media was kind of the fuel of the campaign to get that across. We did videos where we showed tourists trying to sing the song and telling people, hey, why don't you have a go? Did you have a question? Oh, the singer of the song is a comedian in Iceland. He actually is an actor, but he is an Icelander. But yeah, we found him like that. And also on social media, we were using the alphabets as well, kind of showcasing Iceland. So the results of that campaign, we got 437 articles published in media with 97 million unique reach on social media and in global media, with really good media targets, getting really good coverages as well for the campaign and Iceland. Return of investment 14-1 in earned media value, which is really great. We got great response as well on social media for the karaoke song and the campaign. 8 million combined video views with 71% average view duration, which is phenomenal. And even the song was popular. We got 107,000 plays on Spotify, which I couldn't believe because I started to hate this song so much just because I've heard it a million times and it's just stuck in my head. But yeah, it was popular and it's still getting a lot of plays, not just from tourists but also Icelanders. So and got people even try to perform it in their own way on social media. Here's just a few examples.
The hardest karaoke song in the world.
This is the A to of Iceland. What could possibly go wrong? You're too good. Iceland has it all. What's there to better to still look for else? Go look for else. You can rent a Billy Boily Billy.
That's not how you say it.
Enjoy the drive on Hringvarenveren.
And of course you don't get millions of people doing that because it's hard to get people to participate, but it's always special to see some, people taking their time and way to do engagement of this video. So it's great to see. And we saw, for example, Contenas Traveler creating their own video to explain how to do the karaoke song, and a really positive attitude from Icelanders as well to promote the campaign. So I've gone over the karaoke. No, that's a great idea. That's maybe next time I'll do that. That could be kind of, yeah, 10%. Okay, we don't sell anything, so you don't get anything. It's okay. So I'm almost finished with my kind of presentation, but I wanted to pull together kind of what are the main learnings that we have learned. It'd be great to get your thoughts on the matter, but from the campaigns that we've done, number one, as I was saying, the best lessons aren't lessons. Don't be boring. Be fun, otherwise nobody wants to talk to you. The second one, be personal, and this is something. This is a key kind of with when we have seen success. I'm not saying every campaign has been phenomenal and we haven't done mistakes, but most of the time when we feel we don't get the connection is because we don't have people telling the stories. If you do more of a personal approach, people are more prone to listen. This is something at least that we have learned. So try to be personal in your messaging. Be responsible and authentic. Don't showcase things that won't meet the expectations of your viewers, and think about the sustainability, what you promote. For example, Inspired by Iceland has never promoted the summer. We never promoted the summer, just winter, because we're focused on growth in winter time. We use tools like Iceland Academy to teach about responsible visitor behavior and stuff like that. So at least this is something we feel is a strong thing to have in mind when you are marketing a destination or even a company. I think it can be applied to everything. Number 4, have a long-term focus. Know what is the journey, where are you trying to head, what is the end destination you are trying to achieve, and collaborate with stakeholders. That's the most important one. If you have the dialogue and if they feel that they own something in the campaign, they will help you promote the campaign, and you get much more impact with your messaging if more people are participating in getting that across. And again, we are launching a new campaign this October with the A to Ö, so continue. Maybe we'll do your into that. But yeah, thank you. Any questions? That is a problem if they're closed. Yeah. Where were you in Iceland? Oh, okay. Oh, when did you travel? This season or? Okay. A lot of that's the thing. Come to the region at that time. Yeah. And this is a learning from us. There's been a rapid growth. And this means the infrastructure sometimes has to follow as well. But I can say though, 5 years ago we were at a completely different place. That would surprise me if we went to the regions now that you wouldn't find accommodation. That would surprise me a lot, actually. Of course, doesn't apply to the whole country, but the main kind of regions and the tourism spots there, you should be able to find it. But it's a valid question, you know, are you promoting something you can't offer? Yeah. So in the campaign we have partners, and it's interesting maybe to talk about that. So how it's funded, the campaign, if you're interested, how do we get the money to do it? It's a public-private partnership. So the private sector, the companies, the hotel companies and airlines, they have to bring in a krona, and the government matches it with a krona at a certain amount. So if they are not interested in participating in the campaign, the private sector, if the companies don't bring any kronas, the Icelandic kronas, our currency, into the campaign, we have no funding from the government, so 0. But this is the hard thing. We tell the companies, you have to be part of the campaign, but we will never show your logo. We're always going to just work with Iceland and what that comes first and what is sustainable for Iceland and stuff like that. We're never going to show you your logo. Thankfully, we have been able to do that, but it's hard. But in that pool of companies, we have about 50 companies in that partnership. A lot of them are hotels, leading kind of chains and stuff like that have hotels all around the country. So they are really aware of what you're talking about then, bringing the infrastructure in the right way to the regions as well.
Yes, hi, I'm really totally amazed by your creativity And I was wondering, how do you come up with all those ideas? What's the process? Do you do workshops, and how do you work to?
Yes. So
to
I
do
go
that?
to my room and no, it's not me. Yeah. So I think what's helped us with the creative ideas is finding a common challenge. If you're really clear on what is the challenge we're trying to focus, that helps us with the creative idea. And we have great creative partners. So we work with a PR company called the Brooklyn Brothers that are in London. And we have a local ad agency called Íslenska. And they collaborate as well, bringing kind of the creative thought. But the first initial kind of idea sparks from the conversation when we have the meeting. Like in 2014, we had the meeting and it was just, how can we tackle this Google problem? You know, they don't know about regions. They go back, our creative partners, and think, okay, Google, and then Gudmundur, and then that brings in. So, I think what's most important to kind of get that great creative idea is knowing kind of what is the problem. What is the obstacle we're trying to overcome? And from that you get kind of great idea that sinks into and makes it relevant. If it's relevant, that makes a great idea.
Yes, hi. I am not only impressed but very jealous of your campaign because I work for a small area in Belgium, so imagine that. I had a question. You work a lot with locals, which gives the authentic feel, which is fab. But I see that you also had a support from people like Stephen Fry, Terry Jones. So how did you get them? Did you pay them? Did you promise them spa treatments?
No.
Please tell me.
Yeah. So it's easier to get, help without paying people if you have a huge problem like a volcanic eruption, when you're in danger or in crisis. And those people genuinely love Iceland. We didn't have to pay them anything. We just put them in front of a camera and a mic and say, what are your feelings about Iceland? And blah, blah, blah. It just happens like that. We didn't pay them 1 cent. So we haven't actually, for influencer like that, kind of famous people, we haven't paid them. Yeah, thanks to that. Yes. So we haven't paid, but of course we do a lot of influencer marketing. That's a hype and everybody's using it. We are learning it as it goes, but of course they are getting expensive to work with, Instagrammers and stuff like that. So we do pay them, yeah, to do it. But we are still at least in that position that they really want to come to Iceland. So they're willing to lower their fee to come, but still they're getting more pricey.
Can you talk about airlines, Icelandair and WoW? For example, when you want to go from Europe to United States, they guide you to make a stop in Reykjavik, a stopover of 1 day or a week. Can you talk about that, because it's very interesting how they get involved, in fact, in your promotion?
Yes, especially Icelandair. Yeah. They've been really. It's a lot due to them we are seeing this growth, and they've started before, inspired by Iceland. What kind of started the ball rolling is this hub system idea that you can have a layover in Iceland because we are in the middle of the Atlantic Ocean from North America to Europe. And I think it was really innovative approach for Icelandair to say, we won't promise you points on mileage and stuff. We will give you time. So you can come to Iceland, do even a 7-day stopover in Iceland. You don't have to pay any extra money for doing that. You can have a stopover, go travel in Iceland, and come back, and then go on to Europe or North America where you're going. So this kind of idea really ignited as well with the growth, and this awareness of Iceland being a stopover as well destination helped a lot for the Icelandic tourism, definitely. Yep.
But how are you dealing with the massive amount of tourists right now about nature, and you talk about moss and so on? So I'm very touched, and and I try to not going to your country because of that, because I'm a travel blogger, so I think I have a little influence, and I'm talking to myself. If I say to people to go there, and if there is no rules about nature, I know there is, but in the south. But are you dealing with this kind of huge problem?
Yeah, so from Promote Iceland, from a marketing standpoint, we tried what we can, but the infrastructure and the government as well are putting a better signs up and stuff like that that is allowed to do, and I appreciate your concern. But let's talk about the growth. In 2010, we had nearly 400,000 tourists. That isn't a much for a whole year. So basically nobody was coming to Iceland at that time. We basically just caught up. And I think in perception of people, and this is I understand where you're coming from, we have now about 2.5 million tourists a year. But luckily what's happened is 65% now of tourists come during winter time. That was 9% in 2010. So if you're seeing the right growth, you can do it in a sustainable way. So I don't think people use sometimes over-tourism for Iceland. I just don't think it's fair to say it, at least compared to the Nordic nations, we still have a lot fewer tourists coming annually to Iceland. And I can appreciate that Icelanders we aren't many in Iceland, but we have the space for tourism as well. So I don't feel like you should be afraid of that with amount of tourists. Thankfully, we've seen the right growth, and we're seeing the growth in the region, so they're spreading better. So that's healthy. But of course, there are challenges with some spots, and we want to work on that. And we have been dealing with, for example, maybe charging for a parking lot and stuff like that. Those kind of funds go straight into the infrastructure for that area. We have a tourism site protection fund going directly into that. We have a tourism task force, which is basically just governed in a way that how we're going to do this more efficiently and sustainably as a tourism kind of infrastructure. And the government is now starting a new kind of strategy program for long term, just with sustainability in mind. But the thing is, we've been seeing rapid growth year after year after year, which is never healthy for anybody, not even a company. When you're seeing 20% growth, as I was saying, the infrastructure has to catch up really quickly. But actually, the situation today is we're seeing stagnant growth for Iceland. We are getting to kind of an equilibrium, which is not bad. We're not saying that's bad. We don't want 100% growth every year. That's not what we're trying to achieve. But there's still improvements for regions that need more tourists during a specific time. That's what we work on. So that's actually, that's the status we are in. But please come and talk about talk about the mass. Don't be afraid.
Danny,
Don't be afraid to come to Iceland.
65% off season. How did you manage to get that? And what is really effective in your campaigns to get that numbers?
Yeah, well, the campaigns that just went over. It's not focusing on summertime, focusing on the right season, constantly just getting the message across that it's a winter destination as well, and not just us, but getting everybody on board that this is important. The dialogue, companies, the airlines, they all feel this is necessary, and this doesn't happen overnight. This happens with continuous effort. So I guess that's the answer. I don't know.
Another questions?
The previous question, but what you said in your manifesto in the previous conference is that Iceland is not for everyone. It's somewhere you go if you want to be alone with nature and have a lot of adventures. So do you feel like by developing tourism that much, it will become too mainstream and that you'll have to change the way you talk about your country, or that it will change the experience that people can have?
It's a good question. I don't think, though, as I was saying earlier, that, yes, mainstream people want to come. That's good. but I think we can always promise adventures. And it's not for everyone. That's the first thing we say. It's like we recognize, you know, it can't get cold there in Iceland. And if you're not prepared, if you just want sun and beaches, don't come to Iceland because we can't offer that. Yeah. It's called Iceland for a reason, but it's not as cold as you think. But yeah, there are black beaches. Yeah, we have black beaches, which are cold as well. Yeah. Yeah, so we have a local ad agency, as I was mentioning, called Íslenska, who kind of produces the material. Though it varies how much we spend in production, and usually when we spend more and more into kind of production and it feels like a really produced content, we see less engagement because people feel, this is a commercial. When you strip it down like to Ask Guðmundur, where it's just one camera and he's just talking about where you can meet your Icelander, you know, it feels authentic. It didn't cost a lot. It was just one camera and him in a hot pool, you know, talking. So I feel like what we learned is if we produce it too much, especially for a destination, I'm not saying for a company or something, if it doesn't feel authentic and if it feels like a commercial, and people just won't connect to it. Does that answer your question? Or yeah. Yeah, and yes, we are blessed with that, and we are really thankful for the nature, and it's really important. And for example, just platforms like Instagram. You know, Iceland is just exploding on Instagram with pictures, and that creates awareness without us doing anything. But it's a challenge though to focus on the other things like culture. You know, when tourists come to Iceland, if they're just coming to see the nature, they're gonna miss out. There's stuff and other stuff that just don't know about regarding the culture or the history or the food, and that's our challenge as well. To, you know, we are blessed with the nature, but that also can be a slippery slope if people are just coming. You know, if you're thinking about sustainability and profitability, you also want them to be more aware about other things that people just don't know about, like food. So yeah, but definitely it's a huge plus to have amazing landscapes and northern lights and ice caves and kayaking in the fjords and all of that. That helps with promoting a destination.
It's Italian people who bring the wine. It's not.
Yes, we have to thank them for that. Well, for that instance, I wouldn't say we are challenging sustainability because you know, he wasn't using a plastic cup for the red wine. He used glass that you can use again, and roses. I don't know, life without roses. It's not good. I don't know. But of course, looking back, all of the content we could do better, and it's just how much you approach it. But definitely, it's a good point that for example, our first promotional video that we did in 2010, there's a lot of things there that I would change. But we weren't discussing sustainability at that time. which is so important to then have the discussion and back and forth conversation, and we're in a totally different place just in 8 years. Yeah.
Okay, so I think it's time. Thanks a lot, Daddy.
Thank you so much.
And Daddy is here today and maybe tomorrow also. So feel free to have a discussion with him.
Thank you, guys.